I am Spencer Kelly.
Je suis Spencer Kelly.
I am the big cheese.
Je suis le grand fromage.
This week, Click takes a look at the latest translation tech. But is it time to bin the textbooks? Or is the hard graft here to stay? We'll also try on an accessory that gives you full access. All that plus the latest tech news, and we're going for a sleepover in Europe, in Webscape. Welcome to Click. I'm Spencer Kelly. Technology is making the world a very small place, not least because it's breaking down barriers between economies and cultures. Yet some things still do get lost in translation. Apps and websites are constantly upping their games when it comes to translators, but how close are we to a seamless, speedy and portable solution? Lara Lewington gets stuck into a good book.
London, one of the most linguistically diverse cities in the world. With more than 8 million babbling citizens, every single day over 100 different languages can be heard here. As distance becomes an inconvenience rather than an insurmountable obstacle, globalisation means communicating in only one language just isn't good enough. In this hive of lingual activity, hundreds of people spend hours each day learning languages the traditional way. You won't find a translation app in these classrooms. But as accuracy improves, maybe they shouldn't bother. The question is, are the apps up to the job? Well, there's one way to find out. Let's put these apps to the test. Arzu here is going to be speaking Turkish into the Google Translate app, and we've got David who's going to be talking to the iTranslate app in Italian. Both the apps will translate them into English, then we can see how much sense this conversation actually makes. Good luck.
Bugün öğle yemeğini beraber yiyelim mi?
Let's have lunch together today.
Va bene, dove preferisci andare?
Is it okay to wherever you want to go?
Bildiğin güzel bir İtalyan lokantası var mı?
Do you have a nice Italian restaurant, Mobildigen of wrist pain?
Bildiğin güzel bir İtalyan lokantası var mı?
Do you know a nice Italian restaurant?
Sì, c'è un ristorante che fa pizze giusto qua vicino.
If there is restaurant making pizzas right with neighbouring.
Great, well done. Well, it didn't go that smoothly, but hopefully they're going to turn up at the same place at the same time. Type the words you want translated instead and you'll probably get a better result. So inadequacies in voice recognition must shoulder some of the blame.
The system has to recognize the words that you're pronouncing. That's called voice recognition, and that's a really hard problem in itself, independently of translation. So you got two really hard problems. What seem obvious for people, we do it naturally without thinking, recognizing words out of a sound screen and putting them together in sentences, and then translating them into another language if you know that language. Very, very hard. The two really hard problems for computers.
And grasping a phone as you chat is hardly natural, so maybe there could be some wearable tech to the rescue. This is Google Glass, which is basically a connected computer which you can wear on your face. It's got a built-in camera, microphone and speaker, so it should provide you with everything you need for a bit of translation. Now, when I put these on, I may feel rather silly, but it looks to me as though I can see a screen over there, the other side of the room. Of course, what you're looking at is a piece of glass, but this is a better idea of what I can see. You may have heard about some of the camera features, but what we're interested in now is the translation. So, if I want to do a basic translation, this is what I do. OK, Glass, Google, hello, how are you, in French.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous?
Via the bone conduction speaker, I can now hear that it's bonjour, comment allez-vous, and it's written there in my screen. Pretty cool, and that's just a prototype. Glass and many translation apps need to be online to work though, and that data could end up being pretty expensive if you're abroad, when you're likely to need translation the most. Well, here are a few apps that could solve the problem. The Samsung S4 comes packaged with its own built-in S-translator. Now, this is a pretty standard translation app, but it also comes with an offline phrasebook. Now, that phrasebook has categories aplenty and it works in 8 languages. You can add your own favourite phrases to the mix too, so if you know you'll be visiting the Arc de Triomphe, you can get ready for it in advance. But if you're after something a little more flexible, then Google's Translate app now has an offline mode as well, and it should be able to translate anything you can think of. Each language comes as a 160 megabyte or so download though, so you'll need quite a bit of phone storage free if you're planning a world tour. And in our tests, it wasn't quite as good as the online version. How about if you can't even read the language you want to translate? Well, you might want to try this, which can translate road signs and other text. So you've got your device to understand you, and it's translating when you actually need it to. But even in this perfect scenario, you might still be a bit disappointed with what comes out. Odds are you'll get the gist of it across, but why can't we just have a natural conversation?
When you translate from one language to another, you have to make all sorts of decisions about how to interpret words and phrases in your own language and in the language you're going into. And those decisions, if you don't make them properly, will produce garbage. In the first days of translation, what they would do is they take an English sentence, translate it into Russian, and then use the system to translate it back to see how well the system is doing. So they took the sentence, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak," and they got back from the Russian, "The vodka is good, but the meat is rotten."
So how does it all work? If you wanted to learn a new language, you'd probably start by learning a few basic rules and words. Well, computers aren't so different, except that big players like Google and Bing don't look at language books, they look at the whole internet. This basically means looking at billions of documents that have already been translated by humans into different languages. That's stuff like official United Nations documents, books and bilingual websites. Throw all that data together and banks of computers can start to spot patterns that reveal how a language works and how it relates to other languages. The more of these patterns you know, the more accurate your translation should get. The problem is that some language combinations don't have much data to go on, so translating English to German is going to be much better than English to Swahili, for example.
The amount of data that we have access to now as a society, if you think about just all of the information that exists, it's now accessible and connected. So the smarter we are at looking at that and understanding the patterns between that data, the better off we're going to be.
It's basically the problem of encoding the totality of human knowledge about the world and the way language interacts with it. And that's the whole problem of how to represent human intelligence, general intelligence. Will we ever solve it? That's the same as asking, will we ever understand how the human mind works?
So for conversation at least, I think it's going to be a little while before one of these replaces one of these. I'd better get to work.
Lara Lewington. OK, next up, a look at this week's tech news.
The South Korean city of Gumi has become the first to power buses using electric roads. 2 online electric vehicles, or OLEV buses, are fueled by a power strip in the road. The strip emits magnetic fields, which the buses convert into electricity as they drive. The electromagnetic fields are safe for humans, and the technology eliminates the need for the buses to stop and recharge their batteries. Popular messaging service WhatsApp has announced the addition of voice messaging. Users can now send voice messages of unlimited length using the app on any smartphone platform. WhatsApp makes its cash by charging its users an annual 64p fee. This brings the service in line with Facebook Messenger, WeChat, Voxer and BBM, which already offer similar features. Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos has bought the Washington Post newspaper. He made the $250 million purchase himself, not on behalf of Amazon. However, the acquisition suggests that the Post may start innovating digitally to try to combat declining print sales. When asked about its future, Bezos said that the Washington Post will need to invent and experiment. And finally, when you spend £3,500 on a luxury loo, the last thing you expect is for it to get hacked. Satis is a Japanese luxury toilet controlled via a smartphone app, but it turns out that anyone using the app can control any Satis toilet. A poltergeist emulating prankster could repeatedly flush the toilet, open and close the lid, activate air dry functions, or turn the bidet on. Luckily, because of limited Bluetooth range, anyone wanting to carry out such an attack would have to be pretty close by.
Now, one technology that's definitely been a long time coming is something called near-field communications, NFC, which is the ability to simply touch two devices together and for data to flow between them. Now, in some parts of Asia, they've been way ahead of the game. They've been paying for things using NFC devices for almost a decade. And it's very slowly made its way to the West, gaining more traction along the way, where a thriving, younger population is a lot more eager to try out new tech. So eager, in fact, that when we visited Turkey almost 2 years ago, I came across this device. Now, here's the funny thing. Although NFC is already really well established as a payment method here in Turkey, it's the mobile phone industry that's having to play catch up. There are currently hardly any mobile phones on the market that have NFC chips built in. So in order to kickstart that particular industry here in Turkey, you can retrofit any old mobile phone with an NFC chip. What you do is get this NFC adapter and you fit it behind the SIM card in your phone. So you can see that here is the radio antenna that works with NFC, and also on the adapter there's a little bit of software which adds a menu function to your phone. So for example, I've got a pretty basic feature phone here. It doesn't come with NFC built in, but you can see that it's got the adapter wrapped behind the battery there, which means that if you go to the menu and you scroll down to SIM functions, and there you can see the option to make a contactless payment to any of the cards that you have linked to your account. Nowadays, more of us carry around NFC-enabled credit cards, allowing us to make small payments quickly in many stores. And the tech is quickly moving beyond small financial transactions. At this year's Consumer Electronics Show, Sony showed off a raft of gadgets to pair with its NFC-fitted Xperia mobile phone. Here, NFC's capabilities are used to quickly create a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi connection between two devices. No need to fiddle with the settings. And these NFC tags can store your personal preferences. Just tap the phone to activate. And what is more personal than your password? This NFC ring, designed by a small company from Bradford, thinks that you should no longer have to type it in. And where better to store it than on something you can easily carry around with you at all times. Now, the body of the ring is made of metal, and in between the two rims there's space for the NFC electronics in here. Now, this is a ring of two halves, and you can see they've been colour-coded black and white. The white side is supposed to face outwards, and that contains your public information that you might want to share with someone else, your contact details, for example. On the inside, the black half contains your private details, something that you wouldn't want to share with anyone else, and will allow you to do things like, for example, unlock your NFC-enabled phone. Or why not use it to unlock your front door? But you do first have to fit it with this rather flashy digital lock. Granted, not something you wear to make a design statement, but we're yet to see wearable tech that does tick that box too. For now, at least, it is strictly function over fashion. Nevertheless, less than a month into its Kickstarter funding pledge, the NFC ring has been backed by over 4,000 people, raising well over £100,000. John McClear is the inventor of the ring, and he's joined us. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
So you've part-funded this project through Kickstarter, and depending on how much money people give, you get a different amount of ring technology.
That's right, yes.
And one of the options is to actually enable any contributors to 3D print the ring at home.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So we were thinking with 3D printing that people will be able to want to make their own designs, you know, shapes, sizes and whatnot, because everybody's got slightly different fingers. So we thought, you know, we'll deliver the technology that goes inside the ring, and they print the actual ring themselves and put it all together.
One of the first questions that struck me is you have a private and a public side to this ring.
Mm-hmm.
My ring, I don't know about yours, is spinning around all the time.
Yeah.
So what's to stop you from accidentally having the ring the wrong way round and giving someone private information instead of public?
So the private side of the ring doesn't have what we call intents, and intents are basically things that pass information out that would cause a phone to do something. So your phone has to specifically ask for a piece of information from the private side, and then it will respond with it. If you're using the private side, it won't tell the phone or the other device what to do with the information. Also, if you've got the ring halfway spun round, then what you'll find is that there's a metal bar that runs in between the public and the private inlay that acts as an additional security feature.
That blocks the signal from the side that's not supposed to be presented.
Exactly, yeah.
If someone stole my ring, they could unlock most parts of my life. There's no further authentication, there's no password that's needed from my brain. Mm-hmm. How do you solve that problem?
If you lose your ring, you walk up to your digital door lock, or if you walk up to your phone and you just hit the reset button. With your phone, you're able to log in with an email address and a password. So it does all the checks and make sure that you are who you say you are. With your digital door lock, there's a pin. So you pop that in first, hit the reset button, you're back to the state that you were in before. And of course the advantage there is, if you lose your ring, as opposed to losing your normal key that you'd lose now, you don't have to replace the entire door lock. So there are cost savings long term as well.
This is possibly one of the first practical uses of wearable technology. We've been talking about wearable technology for years. Do you see this kind of functionality being introduced into other things in the future?
So every part of your body has a different physical attribute that it's useful for. You know, obviously with the ring, we've decided that unlocking things is a sensible thing because, you know, and it's good to have different gestures. However, you might have just public information that you want to share on your wrist, or you might have, you know, something where you unlock your phone when you hold it up to your ear if you've got an NFC-enabled earring. There's lots of different practical applications, and we're really looking forward to the community exploring them and creating and solving problems with, you know, the tech.
Okay, John, thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the ring.
Thank you.
Your thoughts on this would be very welcome. Contact details coming shortly. But now it's time for Webscape. Now, most of us are familiar with the concept of taking in a lodger to help pay the rents. But the idea of peer-to-peer rentals has taken that to a whole new level. Now, you're not going to make a huge amount of money by renting out your spare room, but it might help to pay the gas or electricity bill. Well, here comes Kate Russell with the latest site to move into the area.
The peer-to-peer rental trend is booming online. We've looked at a few examples already on Webscape, like Airbnb and Park at My House. And here's another promising newcomer to the market, AlterKeys. It has a fresh, young interface that is skewed towards being a social experience for both the host and the visitor.
As well as being a really cost-effective alternative to booking a hotel, one of the reasons I like to travel this way is the connection you get to local knowledge, picking your host brains for all the best places to visit. I've made some really good friends through peer-to-peer renting, who remain on my buddy list today.
With over 50,000 properties all around Europe, it's free to list a room, and a secure payment system holds the rental amount in escrow once a booking is made, to avoid any embarrassment asking for payment. The site offers really thorough insurance, all built into the payment process fee too. But as with anything financial, do read the terms and conditions to check you're fully covered. And remember, the people themselves haven't been vetted, so make sure you're happy with your host before booking. With your room all booked, you might need a flight. Which Airline is a new service that searches over 100,000 routes looking for the best bang for your buck, and that doesn't necessarily mean the lowest possible airfare.
She said, do you come from a land down under?
When
when you're travelling long haul, the cheapest journey isn't always the best value, as you need to take into consideration journey time and stopovers. After all, spending 15 hours in an airport departure lounge can be an expensive proposition in its own right.
Which airline offers an elegant solution with a visual results page, making it much easier to compare your options? Just choose your country from the drop-down menu and fill in the search boxes to explore. And there are free iPhone and Android apps as well.
I got an atomic bomb in the back of my car.
Smartphones are great for recording video, but what are you supposed to do with all those random clips? VideofyMe has a good idea, a free app for iPhone and Android that lets you edit together clips from your reel with just a couple of swipes and taps to make finished films that can be stored on your phone or shared through the usual social suspects, including popular blogging platforms.
There are lots of video apps doing the rounds for your smartphone, but I like that this app lets you edit a funky highlight reel of your life, complete with a backing track and visual effects, all created and shared straight from your handset.
The video effects are only available if you're recording live through the app, but you can stitch them all together from your camera reel after saving them one at a time. As well as integrated sharing, you can build a network of followers within the app to experience the latest highlights from their lives every time you fire it up. Disappearing content, a la Snapchat, seems all the rage online right now. One interesting social experiment that's hit the web this week is Blink Link, which lets users post a photo to be shared on Twitter with a limited number of views, unless someone shares the link on again, which adds another block of views. It's an interesting experiment with a reward dynamic on sharing that I can see being of use to marketers. I'm struggling to think of a more widespread use though for your everyday person on the web.
If you close the door, the night could last forever.
This week, to mark the 6th of August anniversary of pop art legend Andy Warhol's birthday, the museum in his honour has launched a live 24 hours webcam feed of Warhol's grave in his hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's always been a popular place for fans to come and pay their respects, and right now, as he would have celebrated his 85th birthday, it's a fitting tribute to a man who was known for doing things differently. Although, admittedly, there's not much to see at night.
You're my very special one.
Just a perfect day.
While we're waiting for Pittsburgh to wake up, point your browser at another set of feeds which went live this week, iPanda. And these little cuties are wide awake. The site delivers round-the-clock video from 28 high-definition cameras inside a giant panda breeding research base in China. Here, more than 80 giant pandas go about their incredibly cute daily business for all to see. So, it's goodbye productivity. Sorry about that.
Oh, such a perfect day. You just keep me hanging on.
Thank you, Kate. Kate Russell's Webscape, and those links are all up at our website as ever if you missed any of them. Go to bbc.co.uk/click and hit the Webscape link. And if anything that you've seen in this week's show has stoked your interest, then please do get in touch. Email click@bbc.co.uk. You'll also find us hanging out on Google+, Facebook and Twitter. But that is it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.